Welcome to Tech Brothers with Amir. In this video, we are going to learn what is default constraint in SQL Server and how to create default constraint on a column. Let's open SSMS and here is our definition for default constraint. Default constraint inserts the default value into a column when you do not provide the value for that column. So we understand that we can create a default constraint on a column where if we would not provide the value, then it will take some default value. Now here in this example, I'm creating a dbo.Customer table with the columns first name varchar 50, last name varchar 50, and country name varchar 50. But at the end, I have default USA. So that means if we would not insert the value in a country name column, it will insert USA automatically. And also for region, it is varchar 50, and the default value for region column is North America. So if we would not insert any value in the region while inserting a row in this table, it will take North America as default value. Let's go ahead and execute this query. And first of all, you will be saying use your database, and or you can just remove this part and select the database from here on which you want to create this table. So let's create this table. Table does exist already, so you can see that it is already there. I can go ahead and drop it, delete the table. We can always use the drop table statement to drop the table. Let's create the table now. Execute. Table is created successfully. Let's select the data from a table, dbo.Customer, and see if everything is coming correct. Okay. The table is created with first name, last name, country name, and region columns. Let's refresh the tables tab, and we see the customer table is here. So one thing to notice here, if you go to the columns tab, you will see first name varchar 50, it is null. So it can accept null, this can accept null, and also the country name can accept null values, and region can accept null values as well. So if you would not provide the value for that column, it will take the default, but if you will provide the null value, it will take the null. So we'll learn that in this example. So let's take these two records, and now we are going to go ahead and insert that. So insert into dbo.Customer, first name, last name, country name, and region. You see that we are inserting the values for all the columns for our table. So here we have country name and region, and it will not take the default because we are inserting the values in these columns. The same for the next one, we are inserting first name, last name, country, and region. We are using Sukhjit, first name, Singh, last name, India as a country, and region as Asia. So we are inserting the values. So if we insert the values, it will take the values. If we will not insert the value in that column, then it will take the default. So that's how it works. So let's insert that. Two rows are inserted, or two records are inserted. Now we view the data from the table by using select query. It inserted two records successfully. Remember, I was saying if we would like to insert null value, we can, because column can accept null. So if you will say null, it will take the null. It will not take the default. So I inserted a null value in this column country name. So it for our this record, let's take a look here, and now we can see that null will be inserted. So the thing is, you don't have to provide if you don't want to insert anything and want the default to work, you don't even need to mention this column here. So that's how it is, and it will take the default. But if you will provide the value, even it is null, it will take whatever you provide. So now let's experiment when we do not provide the values for the columns on which we have created the default constraint. So I'm inserting the data into dbo.Customer, first name and last name. I did not provide any column here, country name or region. So we are ignoring those columns, and we are only inserting the values for first name and last name. So the other columns such as country and region, they will have the values by coming from the default constraint whatever we have created. So we have for country name we have USA, and for region we have North America. So if I will insert the values, I only insert the values for the first name and last name, but other columns will be populated by using the default constraint values. So let's select the data, and you can see that even we did not insert any value in those columns, but as we have a default constraint, these value came from the default constraint definition. Great. Now as we have seen that we created the default constraint here, we said column and the column data type, and then we just say default and provide the value for the default constraint. So that's how we create the default constraint in SQL. Let's go ahead and take a look. If we would like to know all the default constraints in SQL Server database, we can use sys.objects view, and where we say type description is equal to default constraints. So we will get all the default constraints. Let me query sys.objects the whole without where clause. So you can see there are a lot of information. So we have system tables, we have views, we have user tables, and all that. So all different objects are available, but we are interested only in default constraints. So run it, and you see that now we get the default constraints what we have created in this database. You see that we have df underscore customer cunt or underscore 5318 and all that, and then we have default df customer region, and there is another random number in front of this default constraint, and you can take a look, okay, object and all that. Well, that's not the way we would like to create the default constraint. In a real-time scenario, maybe your company is following some naming standards. They want to start with the say we would like to always start our default constraint name with the df, then we would like to have schema name, and then we would like to have a table name, and then we would like to have column name, and maybe if they will even say we want to have a maybe value sometime, that's their choice. So that's the naming standard your company is following. I recommend using some naming convention instead of a SQL Server. Create the name for your default constraints. If you want to use the default constraint and give the name, this is how you will be creating the default constraint. You will say create table, your table name, and then you have columns first name, last name, and the column on which you would like to create the default constraint. So country name is a column on which we would like to create the default constraint. We say varchar, whatever the data type, here we have using varchar 50, then we say constraint and then provide the constraint name. So I use the df as a default constraint, then I use the schema, then I use the table name, and then I use the column name. So in your naming convention, maybe whatever the company is providing you the document, to use that standard. And then at the end we have to say default and provide the value. Then you have comma and then the next column. So we have region varchar 50, we have to say constraint and then provide the constraint name, and then say default keyword and provide the value, and then parenthesis close. So we are creating a table called dbo.Customer. So if I execute this, it will create the two default constraints on two columns, country name and region, in dbo.TBL customer. Let's take a look on the system tab view and get all those default constraint names now. And you can see that these are the two default constraints we created with the naming convention we used on dbo.TBL customer, and these were created on customer table. So I recommend using the naming standards, whatever your company is using. If they are not using, I recommend at least you create a document for naming convention. So you will have some naming convention for your tables, views, stored procedures, functions, constraints, and other objects in SQL Server. Thanks very much for listening to me, and I will see you guys in next video.